G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by my partner in crime, Badges from across the pond. How you been, buddy? Been a little while since I've had you on, but that's mainly daylight
Yeah, been
savings.
good, thank you, mate.
And you've been busy?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but it's good to be back.
Work's been keeping busy, I have no doubt. I know you're a busy beaver. Or Badges, as I should say. Right. So we've got Citizencon next week. So we usually, just before Citizencon, we this is our usual episode that we do where we talk about what we expect from Citizencon. It's just that simple. So I'd like to go through the panels, then we'll talk about probably some of the new ships that we're looking at or what we'd hope to see from some ships, and then basically what we'd like to see at Citizencon. It's pretty simple. So we'll kick it right off. Again, if you like this type of content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. And thank you for those people who go the extra mile at the end credits there. Thank you. Right. With that, then, let's kick it over to the browser. Right. So, Citizencon. I think we'll kick it over to this one, actually, the schedule. So, Shaping the Verse. What's your kind of take on this one?
Yeah, I mean, so, this is obviously going to be their showcase, right? Because they even say it. Join us as we showcase the power and depth of Star Engines. So, for those that may be going into their first Citizencon, what CIG have done previously is they've given us a kind of opening story, a showcase, a part mission. It then kind of cuts away and does the whole to be continued, and then they finish it up as their closing. It doesn't look like they're going to do that this time round.
Yeah, very small close over there, that's for sure. I got a feeling that'll be kind of Chris saying thank you, and that's kind of what that grabs me as, like, yeah, thanks for joining us type thing. Again, it's very short, so yeah, just a little bit of a wrap up on that one, but yeah.
And I think that's going to be an improvement over the previous one. That long talk section they did at the end of the last one, for those that remember it, I found that exceptionally dull. That was a lot of talking for not a lot of content.
I have interviewed Chris. He does tend to waffle a little bit. That's just a part of the course with him. He's a very passionate man. And I also think the other person, Richard Tyra, he has the same problem. So when you had both of them, it was really bad. And I think they will have learned from that, hopefully, to not put those two together again. And it's not that they're bad people or anything like that. It's just that they can't do things simplified or shorthand. They have to talk about every detail. And it's good for people that like details, but when there's a lot of people watching, that was scheduled for, like, I think half an hour, and it went for 2.5 hours. And when it was the last thing and I'd done 8 hours already on a stream, I was like, I want to go to bed. So I didn't appreciate it at the time, but when I went back and watched it, I appreciated it a lot more, obviously. So yeah, but again, any details we can get is awesome. I do think that particular panel will be kicking off with a bang. I do hope to see some kind of new tech in there. I do think we might even see some of the server meshing stuff possibly coming through on there as well. But we'll go through that as well. So
yeah. And it's worth noting that this is the longest panel that they've got. It's an hour and a half, where everything else is an hour, or half an hour for the cosplay. So yeah, this is obviously going to be their big bang. Here's the really good visuals. Here, this is what we're aspiring to. For an hour and a half. It also makes me wonder, is this also kind of sideline at the rest of industry, going, we have this really powerful engine, come buy it from us. But I guess we'll see.
I kind of hope they do, honestly, because the more games, like, they've spent all this time making this engine, and it'll secure them financially. They've made some kind of deal with Amazon. It's pretty obvious there, like, because some of the sound tech we know has turned up in New World and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see in the course of time. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fix it and fly it. Resource management. So this is the engineering stuff. So it's they did talk about a little bit this last year. We obviously saw a little bit earlier this year. So it would be kind of good to see how that's progressed. One thing I will say very briefly on all these panels, they don't seem to be so much more like about what they want to do, but more like an update of what they've been doing, which seems to have changed from, the last one, the digital one, was a bit more like that, but previous years they would sometimes talk about things and they wouldn't eventuate in the next year. I think one last year that I'm remembering is investigation missions. They talked about those. No new investigation missions this year. So it seems to be they're leaning more to like talking about what they've done rather than what they're going to do. That way they're not breaking any promises, so to speak, or giving us expectations of things that we're not going to see. So yeah. I do like the also in that Fix It and Flight, they also are talking about the multi-crew stuff, because I think that's really what I signed on for personally.
Yeah.
What about you? Are you
You know,
into the multi-crew?
it's fairly obvious, I think, that when you're in a single, you know, you'll be able to go down and maybe fix stuff and patch stuff up in a single seater. But you know, that's obviously not really ship gameplay, because you're having to land, you're having to get out, the ship's inactive while you're doing that. Whereas this, like, you know, if you remember, I forget which Citizencon it was or which presentation, but they showed them going down to a satellite and recovering. I think the mission's still in the verse at the moment, but you recover like a data board, like a PCIe board.
You're talking about the one with the guy from the reclamation place. I think his name was something Star-Neely or something like that.
Yeah,
and
Clovis Star-Neely.
Yeah. I know the one. And everyone's like, jump. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
And he misses it the first time. Yeah, absolutely. And then doesn't it kill him or something?
Oh, something like that. And they've got to reload it, and it takes like another half an hour to get back there or some shit. It was just hilarious, and it was just like, welcome to Star Citizen. Like it was just, it was perfect, because that's what we all go through.
No, now we've got to reload, and then there's the entire audience going, "How do you think we feel?"
Welcome to our world.
Absolutely. But it's that bit of like he pulls the data board out, he inspects it because he's looking for the code on the board, and he goes, "Yeah, it's not that one. Yeah, it's not that one," and he's kind of like throwing them over his shoulder as he's doing this. But you know, it's that sort of kind of makes it really interesting. So you've got what they showed off with the Hammerhead, with the power relays and the power going to everything. And that's going to be the engineer looking at it. And then, you know, he finds a fault with something, and then hopefully we'll have to run around when we get the repair stuff in, as, you know, as kind of sitting under the resource management umbrella to go and find the faulty component to replace it. So you can see how it kind of is going to just spawn more gameplay as well as be its own thing.
And every little mission is going to have these multi-faceted parts that have all these different gameplay combinations. Yeah, absolutely. Because all of a sudden you've just literally described this old mission that was just a pickup. Now it's a pickup and repair, you know, and then, or pick up and medical or whatever. You can say it all.
I think, you know, when people at the moment, we complain about the times it takes to get out of Atmo. Anyone that's tried to get out of Orison ever knows that that's a pain in the backside. Actually, I think, you know, as time goes on and we've got to upkeep our ship, we've got to repair our ship, we might have to, you know, if you're having to put boxes of ammunition to refill your ballistics somewhere inside the ship and organize your cargo, you know, you're just going to throw it all in the hold. And then when you're flying to your next place, that's when you sort it all out. And all of a sudden, these long transit times won't seem so long, because you'll take off. And as you're flying, you've got repair tasks to do, restock, got to go eat, you got to go put stuff away, you know, and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's gonna make the game feel massively different.
It's gonna give it another another layer to it. Like, so all right, we're flying now, I've got to do all this other stuff. So it's not just going to be 100%. Sitting there, all right, time to go get a coffee or whatever. It's going to change. I'm going to try and show something. I don't know if this is going to work. And it's not, because it's downloading it to my computer, so it's not going to work. Right. But what I had there was someone sent me a video of their cosplay costume that they're taking to Citizencon.
Awesome.
And I'll show you after we film this, so you can see yourself. But it's very impressive. So yeah, he's coming all the way from Australia to go to Citizencon, and he's carrying it in a suitcase. So you can imagine how dedicated this person is. So
there's going to be a very confused US Customs and Border Patrol agent sitting there going, and why do we have a space helmet suit of armor?
So no Citizencon for 4 years. So I'm expecting after 4 years, there's going to be some damn awesome costumes. So I don't know. Not everyone's cup of tea. Like, imagine most people are just going to take an hour and a half lunch. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, so I sat and watched the last physical cosplay, and actually was quite funny. Because the guy, and I forget whose name he is. He's the one of the kind of character creation does all of the outfits and stuff for different people. Forget his name, but he's very funny. When they give him some rope to get going, he's hilarious.
Mr. Combustible?
Pass. I'm not sure who that is, but yeah, he's often, when they sit down and like sketch out in the IFCs and the Star
I know who you
Citizen
mean.
Live.
You're talking about the I don't he left, but he was friends with Jared. He was the Asian guy, the Asian concept artist guy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Has he gone, has he?
Yeah, he left.
That's a shame, because he's very, very funny, and he was one of the judges.
I've got his name on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't remember it. Yeah, because he's left. Because he left about a year ago. So yeah.
Damn. Sorry to see you go, dude.
Yeah. Anyway, talking ships. So moving on to this one. It's interesting, some of the things they put in here. They talk about the future, as well as looking at the pipeline itself with mythology as well. So and using lore to dictate some of the ships. And one of the things that actually came up this week when Algren and I was talking is it's now interesting to see that we've got the F8 Lightning and the Hurricane, and they're both from the same manufacturer. They're both heavy fighters. They are both completely different, but they almost look like they're from two manufacturers, and that's because of lore. You know, if you know your lore, that Anvil Aerospace actually bought a lot of the original plans from Jace Aerospace, and then they started Anvil Aerospace. So it's partially Jace Aerospace and Anvil, and that's why it's called Anvil Aerospace. But that's why they have two very different aesthetics. They've got this older one, like in the Gladiator and the Hurricane and stuff like that, and then this new one in the Hornet and the Anvil. The Hornet and the Lightning. So it's really cool to see that. Like, again, you do see that in car design as well. Like, if you go back and look at older cars, you can see this time progression. So it's really kind of cool that I don't know about you, but I've never seen a game that has a manufacturer of sorts and it's got different time periods in it. That just shows a level of depth. I know that doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, right? Because it is just a function thing, but it's just a cool aesthetics that they've got going there. And I'd like to see where I do think that tips a little bit to the ship that we might see, and I'll talk about that when we talk a bit later.
Yeah, it's you know, I hope they spend much more time on the ships than they do on the pipeline. I feel of all the pipelines that we have seen, the ship pipeline has been covered to death. You know, if they keep it the headlines, we've improved this, we've improved this, we've improved this. So previously, a medium-sized ship took this long. Now it's going to take this long. If they give us that, that's great. But, you know, going as in-depth as they have done previously, I feel like might be a waste of an opportunity.
I think a bit of this might also talk about the fact that the new ship teams have come online, and they're probably looking at talking about how they're going about to design the bigger ships. Like, you know, how we talked about multiple RSI ships coming online, stuff like that. So this might show us a bit of the planning for the future of that. So hopefully we'll see that. So yeah, I'm hopeful. Yeah. Right, navigating the universe. If I don't see the star map, I'm going to write. And I think Space Tomato's right up there with me. So yeah, this better be an update to the star map, because it's the one thing I wanted all year, and Space Tomato was the same. We both said the same at the start of the year. What about yourself? You got any other expectations other than that?
Yeah, you know, so while they say interact with their surroundings, I think it's probably going to be an expansion of what we saw in the last Citizencon, that conversation between Chris Roberts and Rich Tyra, where they showed us going into a hab, and rather than having to hold F and see what highlights for you to interact with, you're actually going to get kind of vague outlines, and then you can basically ping and personal scan an area. I think it's probably going to be that, as well as hopefully, like you say, the star map.
Yeah, essentially you're talking about the replacement to the inner thought system, which was always clunky as shit, and I can't wait to see the death of it, to be honest, because it was a neat idea to put thoughts into a game, but it just doesn't work, because it essentially was selecting from a list and then combining the movement of the camera. It still shows you to this day how clunky it is. Like you look around to try and find a switch, and if the switches are right next to each other, just moving across to the one that you want will actually put you onto the next switch, not on. And so some things are actually completely impossible to select due to bugs.
My character is currently running around with an activated blue flare because I looked down and tried to inspect a golden ticket. And anyone that's looked in that area has been like inspecting flare. They've grabbed grenades off their belt. They've, you know, done everything but actually do whatever they were trying to do in their hand. So hopefully that fixes, and that'll be great.
Yeah, great case in point. Right, that's day one. No, it's not. I do want to talk about this. The glaring 3-hour
I knew you were going to do this to me, X. I knew you were going to do this to me.
I think it would be very presumptuous, and I actually can use the second day as evidence, right? This is open to 7, like it closes at 7. This one closes at 5:30. There is absolutely no gap after the closing ceremony, but there's this massive 3-hour gap. That is not a small chunk of time. That is actually, in fact, bigger. You said this was the biggest talking panel, and you know, all the panels all go for about an hour, as you can see.
Yep.
So to have that open for 3 hours is just gigantic.
Yeah.
There's also, if you really want to get into certain things, and I know CIG and a lot of white knights, I even put a Reddit up post and got flamed for this, but you can actually zoom in and you can actually see that there was something here.
So they did clarify that that was in fact a typo.
Yeah, they can lie. That's fine. I don't trust them anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, my thought is that there's something in there, right?
Yeah.
The chances are it would have been.
Look, when I'm trying to bury the evidence and I leave evidence behind, I'll lie. If it was a court case, well, yes, I didn't leave any blood or DNA behind, Your Majesty, or whoever you
I think if it was that way, CIG might have just not said anything and just been conspicuous by their absence. I mean, I do hope there's something in there. There is something very specific that I hope that is in there. And don't forget, CIG did say when they sold the tickets that there would be parts of this that are venue only.
Yeah. So I think...
So it may well be that when they arrive, because when I arrived for Citizencon, you got a bag full of goodies. We were in the UK. The Yanks took a shot at us because we got a branded umbrella. I'm just... bear with me 2 seconds.
Go for it.
So we got a branded umbrella of Star Citizen. You can kind of see the logo there.
Yep.
Right. There you go. Star Citizen umbrella. So it's the Yanks taking a shot at the Brits for the fact that there's always raining over here. And it is always raining over here.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Apart from now. But yes, they gave us a bag with stuff in, and there was a coin and all sorts of stuff. And obviously the schedule, I would imagine that schedule might have something about Squadron 42 that we won't see until after the day. Nice.
Might explain why they gave us stubby holders, because yeah, we're alcoholics down here apparently. That's the jab at us, but yeah.
Yeah, so I hear.
Yeah, so I think there's at least 2 things in there. Like if you kind of roughly look at it, I think there's at least 2 things in there potentially. Yeah. As you said, it could be Venue Pacific, absolutely. And they're kind of hiding it because this whole image does look like it's from a PDF that you would put in a brochure. I expect this to be like almost identical to what we'll see when the brochure photos come out in that first hour on the first day, as will all the ship images. That's how everything's leaked every year. Yeah. Someone walks in the door, opens the brochure, goes snap, and 5 seconds later it's on Discord and Reddit and everywhere. So we won't actually hear about the new ships in that panel. We'll hear about them then, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, just to exercise a little bit of people inferring from stuff that isn't there. People, if we get something in that slot, then great. There is also very significantly the chance that is a let's go to the bar and talk. Previously at Citizencons, there has been something for the day, for the evening, after things close. The devs say, we're going to go to this bar. You're welcome to join us. And there's the after party drinks. The thing is with this one, there's the VIP. And it would be, a bit of a kick in the teeth to everyone else that's gone, if that means there's no chance to go and talk to the devs.
Yeah.
So that could well be hey, we're going to be in the bar now until 7 o'clock, until the venue closes. Let's all go. Let's have a drink, because they do have that very large now on the map, public kind of gallery or kind of area.
I'll leave it with this though, right? They have said multiple times now in the Shanghai thing and multiple posts on the website this year that they've put up that they'll be showing things about Squadron 42 here, right? So there's nothing that words Squadron 42 here. So that's why I still think it's in that part there, because if it had just said, oh, we'll show a bit of Squadron 42 in one of these segments, I wouldn't have looked into it. But the fact that it says nothing, I think it's here. But hey, wait and see.
It would be lovely if it is, but the thing is, people hype themselves up and then they get angry at some, because something that was never there wasn't there. So, just I guess
maybe they've left it open.
announcement.
Maybe they've left it open in case they can't get it done in time or something. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Right, character advancement. About time we got an update to this. They've been taking people's faces for years, so I'm hoping that's them talking about, now they're bringing them in and stuff like that. Well, that's what I'm hoping, because like we've really had the same faces for too many years now. And hair is another thing, beards, some more feminine. What's her name? Pachenko. I think when she came in, she was meant to have like a really cool haircut, and she's just got like a cloth. I remember them saying, within 6 months or a year or something like that. I don't remember the exact time frame actually, but they just said at a future date should basically get hair, but that's never
just times
happened.
by 3. Times by 3-ish.
Yeah.
So
nothing really too unexpected there, to be honest with you.
No.
You nothing really, and they have talked about characters at previous Citizen Cons and stuff like that. So I'm just expecting an updated version of that talk, essentially.
Yeah, the first part of it is we explore the outlaw stars found on the far frontier. Those that have been keeping up with the PU updates will know that they have been working on new criminal gangs.
Yep.
So we're going to see them there, I would expect.
They had a lot of concepts for outlaw clothing too, so it's probably a bit of the fashion of Pyro compared to the fashion of Stanton. So yeah, right.
Handcuffs are all the fashion in Pyro. We're coming for you, pirates.
Yep. So this life in the first person almost sounds a little bit like last year with the grapple hands thing pulling along the surface, and it also sounds a little bit like Arena Commander, possibly a little bit of Theaters of War in there. I'm not too sure. What's your thoughts there? And that's a bit of hopium when I say Theaters of War, but
yeah, I think well, I mean, from reading this could also be where they put in the personal scanning and the interacting stuff, because that's pretty much what they said, right? Which is the how we're shaping a more immersive dynamic universe through seamless and tactile interactions. So maybe this is a bit of polishing. Anyone that's ever done a delivery mission knows that when you put that crate down, it's weird.
Yep.
Especially if you put it into a machine.
Yep.
Your hands go through it, and then your character freaks out and blah blah blah. But yeah, I think one of the things I saw was in one of the animations is an idle weapon inspection. So how in some games where you don't do stuff for a while, your character kind of goes, that's cool, and kind of turns the weapon over and has a look at it. Sounds like that sort of stuff is coming.
Well, the inspect thing at the moment where you look at it. I'm just going to use my phone like it's a gun. You kind of look at, you kind of bring up the phone you bring up the phone. You bring up the gun like this, and it's got the little points on it, and you do that. That's literally ripped straight out of Crisis, right? They're using the same part to do that. But I was talking to Space recently, and he actually reckons they're going to make it so that when you actually click it, it'll have an animation now to change it for you. So say it's like a grenade launcher, you would actually take it off and then put the new one on, or you actually reach from your backpack and put the side on. That's really cool. That's like the next level to it, and that sounds amazing to me. Taking it off and putting it on. Right? Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
Having just played Starfield, eating is you click something, you hear and it goes from your inventory, which is very similar to I'm going to put this light instead of this laser on my gun, and you hear click, and all of a sudden it's there. If you're going to do, if you're going to make me take a drink out, unscrew it, drink it, screw the lid back on and throw it in the bin, it absolutely makes sense to get some sort of animation when you change things over.
Wonder if we'll hear anything about magazine stripping and putting them back in. I wonder if that'll be a part of that. We'll see. I don't know. We haven't heard about that in a few years, but that was meant to be a thing too. So yeah.
I'm sick of ditching FS9 mags with only 30 rounds in them.
Yeah, can relate. Right, living on the edge. We delve into the living conditions, environments of outlaw settlers. That sounds like an updated.
Sorry to jump in. We haven't talked taking flight yet. At 1 o'clock.
My bad. I skipped one. Yeah, so that's basically master modes, yeah? Updated version.
That's what it looks like, yes. Yeah. But it also talks about atmospheric, and I hope we get some sort of separation of space and atmospheric.
A return to hover mode.
Yeah, or at least one of the things that really annoys me is this IFCS thing, is that I can take a Hercules and then just hover it, nose down, upside down, ass up, whatever, and then walk away from my computer.
Yeah.
stick something in the microwave, make myself a cup of tea, come back, and it's still hanging there. I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't hang, that everything should be like a plane, but there should be a limit to it.
I still firmly,
it's just ridiculous.
I still firmly believe the whole complaints for the original hover mode was that it was difficult, and because people found it difficult, they complained. You know, like I picked it up. You know, it was difficult, but I could land them, and I went, okay, this is the first iteration, and it'll get better, no worries. And I had no problem with it, but there were people that just couldn't do it at all, and they were continually crashing and stuff like that. And I think it's just that loud minority that we have kind of got that squish. But if they'd given it time, it would have been fine. And so I think it will eventually make its way back in, and you won't have that 100%. Like VTOL to me is to assist you in landing, you know, and it's generally. You need to hover for a reason. Like there are so many ships that don't have VTOL at all, and they're the ones that are just coming straight down. They're not they're not going to wait around. So we'll see.
And what people don't understand is for things like helicopters, for like the F-35, the Harrier that can hover. That is when the airframe is under most stress. That's when the engine is working hardest. It is much more stressful for the helicopter, the airframe itself, to be in the hover than it is to be in forward flight.
Yeah.
Same F-35 and everything else. And that's where the pilot needs to be really careful and manage that. So, you know, there's lots of people talking about Starfield and how they don't like the fact that you can't fly in Atmo, that, you know, it's taking off as a cinematic, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's only a small step up to let people fly out, but to require absolutely no skill to do so. You know, skilled pilots, you know, we hear that in terms of combat, but what about in terms of landing in a very small space, or, you know, on a very rocky? It's not a thing because there's no skill involved yet. Hopefully they change that.
But and again, like I know people talk about atmospheric flight and racing and stuff. It's got nothing to what it's going to be. It's going to be a completely different ball game down the road. So you're right on the money there. All right, living life on the edge. I kind of read into this being almost like a comparison between Stanton and Pyro. So we know that because of the lawlessness of Pyro, there are going to be a different political nature. There's going to be a different set of rules. Like breaking the law in Pyro is probably not going to land you in jail, for one. You know, so there'll be the missions that you can do over there, like lawless missions, won't have any consequences and stuff like that, or a different set of consequences at the very least. And I think they'll probably go into a bit of the design brief on that, and it'll hopefully be an eye-opener for people. Even just going between systems, the laws will change drastically. And they've actually said in the future, when you go into a system, it will bring up the laws, and you'll have to look at them to know how they affect you. You know, like one system might allow slavery, another might not, and a whole bunch of others. So I think this is that's what I take out of it. What do you take out of it?
Yeah, there's that really kind of exciting idea of like the Serenity Firefly-esque stuff, where you're not necessarily breaking the law, you're skirting it. So, you know, you're taking stuff that is contraband in a system and going round it to deliver it to somewhere, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I think that living in the grey sort of gameplay is kind of really exciting, because most games give you two options: good guy, bad guy. That sort of, you know, that sort of grey gameplay that's so good in Firefly and Serenity. We like that. But yeah, I think so. You know, it was shown at Pyro at Citizencon. You had the outpost that's inhabited, which we don't have at the moment, and people are kind of like, yeah, and it's not really a thing. But hopefully, you know, it looks from this like Pyro is going to have potentially friendly outposts that are inhabited by people are there. Maybe that's a new way to pick up missions. You go and talk to people rather than get it through your mobigas.
Maybe it's a little bit like Vegas. Like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So you can be the good guy in Stanton, and then when you want to be a pirate or a rebel, you go into Pyro, no consequences, and then come back to Stanton, and it's totally fine. Like it could be that too.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that be really cool that you could go against someone like, because he's not here, you could go against an oppressive company like Hearthstone, chill up, Al. You know, but to everyone else, you're like, hey, Crusader treats its people good. Don't have a problem with Crusader. Hearthstone, not so much. We have a problem with Hearthstone. We're going to help the Hearthstone freedom fighters. But yeah, and now I'm going to get banned from the Inforunners.
So this last one again sounds a little bit like Pupil to Planet, but it also talks like they're maybe showing the updated bunker stuff as well. So I don't know. What's your take on Destination Adventure?
Yeah, that you know, it exactly as you said, starting up somewhere in orbit, all the way down to the surface, and then underground, showing off new mission technology. Maybe this has something to do with the hacking that we saw when they showed the UGFs. They were talking about
bounty hunting.
They had huge pits of coolant that they were putting computers into that you could raise out of and take it valuable data from and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that's likely to be the closest we get to a story within that 45 minutes.
The only other one I'd add to that is bounty hunting too, because that's been on a few times this year. But yeah. Right. That is the panels. So, ships. Yeah. So this is the controversial one because basically, this is stuff being leaked and stuff like that. We had the F8 this week as well, which is really interesting, like kind of where they dropped that. But I was on Space's podcast last weekend, and we went through that together, and we found that there were 15 ships pretty much ready to drop. And that's including the unannounced ones and that. And the only one of those, there was only one of those that we couldn't account for through leaks and stuff like that. So that there was originally 5, but back when that was talked about, the Fury LX was not a thing, so that knocked it down to 4. We know there's 2 Carter variants coming, so that knocks it down to 2. And then the Zeus. So if you take the Zeus off, there's just 1 that's not accounted for. And I would probably expect that that's the one that we'll see at AIE. And that also doesn't account for concepts. So you could get a concept. Now, the other thing I want to throw in the mix here today, though, is that the Scout has been found to be in the AI pool of ships in the latest build on the PTU. I don't know if you've seen that. This has only happened in the last 24 hours. I've had multiple, even Agrid came to me about it, right? So if Agrid's hearing about it. For
people that haven't been watching, this is the Xi'an Scout, right? The alien ship.
No.
Oh, no?
This is the Cutter Scout.
Another Cutter, really?
So, yeah. Well, like I said, there's 2 variants of the Cutter that have been leaked. And so it now confirms one of them because they've been seen physically in game. But it also, if you think about it, it allows them, if it was to come at Citizencon, because the rumor that's flying around with the Zeus that I've been hearing from the people that have been talking to me about the Zeus was it was originally planned for AIE. Now they're hearing things like it might not quite be ready for AIE. So, for Citizencon, so they're going to drop it back to AIE, and they've pulled one of the Cutter variants out to make that flight ready for sale. So you'll get a Cutter here at Citizencon, and you'll get a Cutter at AIE, but you'll also get a concept for the Zeus. I don't know if that's true, but that's just what I'm hearing. So again, don't be surprised if you don't see the Zeus. But again, apparently it's only going to be delayed to like the end of the year. Kind of like what happened with, I think it was one of the alien ships that happens with, wasn't it? It was just delayed by like 2 months. They did a concept sale, and then it literally came out like 2 months later. I can't remember which one that was, but yeah, I could be remembering that completely wrong.
I can't remember now.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's what I've been told. So if it doesn't come out, maybe just expect a concept of that. And that Scout thing is my speculation. But why is it in the game now? Why isn't it in one of the .x patches? Right? So why, if you can find it in game right now, why is it in there now and AI flying it around if it wasn't there ready to go type of thing? So, and I've physically had someone stream this on Discord, and I've seen this ship in game. It does exist. It was destroyed, like broken up, but it was soft death. So you could walk in, you could see all the panels, the scanner on top, and all that type of thing. So essentially take the little dish off the Terrapin and put it on top of a Cutter, and you kind of get what I'm talking about here. And it's got a bigger cargo bay at the back, and there's actually a terminal in there. And the interesting thing was it had 2 size 2 components. It had a size 2 power plant and a size 2 cooler. That is way bigger than the Cutter's got. So yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of what I'm expecting. What about yourself? Now I've overloaded you with that. Top that, bitch. Okay.
I don't know. I think it's likely, given the way ship sales have gone already this year, in terms of lots of little ships, very specific. So we had races and we had that sort of stuff. I would not be surprised at all if we get a large concept.
Really?
Something
Okay.
pretty big. Or a large straight to fireball, but something maybe that's aimed at making up the, and I know people will say that the F8C Lightning isn't that. I'm not going to get into that because it's not a Citizencon thing. I think something like that. Hopefully, we're going to maybe get something straight to flyable. It's always interesting because, I think it's hard to identify a pattern sometimes, because sometimes you'll see things happen at Citizencon and sometimes they'll happen at IE and vice versa.
I've said this to you before. The only thing consistent about CIG is how inconsistent they
are. I think the only, people going, money grab, they're really struggling with money. So, show me the evidence and I'll believe you. But I think for me, what would indicate that they are in trouble is if we get a spider miner. If we get a spider miner, I'm out. I need to get my money out. I need to get my money out now.
Yeah.
But that's it.
I think as for the concept, I do think we will get a big concept, like a big, because that's the one thing that they always tend to do at AIE is a big concept. But in previous years, they have done the big concept at Citizencon as well, so it can go either way. I won't rule that out either. But from what I'm hearing from the Zeus, if the Zeus is not straight to flyable, I think it would be a concept for the Zeus and potentially the cutter. That's the only reason I can think why the cutter would be in. We'll put it this way: the cutter's in game, but the expedition is not. So yeah, that'll leave up to you. As for AIE, I think we'll definitely I think the big concept for AIE would probably be the that land miner, the RSI miner. Will be my biggest thing, but this is a video on Citizencon, not AIE, so I should probably stop talking about that. Right. Is there anything you would like to see as we start to wrap this video up? Anything you would like to see at Citizencon?
Yeah, so I got to be careful with my words here. I'd like to see something on Squadron 42, even if for those of us that aren't at LA, that comes out with the videos, 24, 48 hours later. I would like to see something on Squadron. And the reason I say that is if you look at the Squadron updates, there's just one went to Comlink like 4 days ago for this month. Read through them. Everything talks about working on bugs, working on problems, working on optimizations, supporting reshoots, or improving some sort of movement animation. It's not talking about getting their teeth into new projects anymore. That's dropped off entirely, and that to me seems to indicate that we are coming to the final mile for Squadron. So I'm not saying that it's going to be announced as releasable or anything, but we seem to be getting there. Is the game still off the web store?
Yes. So this is what we would like to see, right? So this is the copium or hopium segment of all this, right? So with what I know that's moving in the background and stuff like that, I am pretty sure that this game is coming at next year's Citizencon. We've heard things to the effect that they're going to do a world tour. So this would be the start of the hype machine for release next year, right? My my biggest hope for Citizencon is that we actually get some form of demo. And if you were going to hype something, you need to have something that people can look at. And I don't think a trailer is going to cut it. Like we've seen trailers before, and then the last big, the vertical slice trailer that we got was 5 years ago, and that's the last real big thing we got on this game. We've had little, little art pieces like the NG sizzle reels and stuff like that. We haven't really had a big gameplay slice for 5 years. So I would really love to have a physically playable vertical slice or demo. That's my biggest hope. Do I think we get that? The cynic in me is that I go into these things, and I think I said this to you earlier before we started recording, is I go into every Citizencon with the lowest expectations I can, and that is that this will be the best ISC all year. That's how I look at them. I look at them like an inside Star Citizen, and it'll just be the best one of the year. And then I'm not disappointed. And you know, so that's all I go into, right? Again, it's 2 days though, so that's kind of cool. We're obviously probably going to get a bit more information than usual. I haven't really looked at the times, but 9 to 7, that's about 8 hours each day with an hour break in the middle. So usually Citizencon's about 8 hours. So the first day alone is 8 hours, and I think the second day's a little shorter than that. So take from that what you will. Yeah, so I think we are getting more information than usual. So yeah, I don't know. Anything you kind of want to add to that before we wrap up, or is that
no? Just that, you know, there's on the map there's Area C, which is to be announced, and that very well could be some form of demo. The reason I say that, you know, someone's going to say I think it's Theatres of War. It would be an interesting choice to be really pushing that at this point when they say they're all hands on deck for Squadron 42, and they have another game that's in release, the PU, to also have devs just seems like not the most intelligent allocation of resources at this time. So it may be like a Citizencon Fight or Flight.
Fight or Flight's actually there on the map though. So
yes, but what I mean in terms of like not the official competition, but maybe like an unofficial, you know, a lower level one for everyone that attends. Maybe they can win some cool stuff.
I will disagree with that just because of the size of it. Like it is literally 4 times the area of Fight or Flight. But that said, could they be doing multiple things in that space? Absolutely. But if it is just that, I'll be really surprised. But I've heard so many conspiracy theories about this space. Like there's people that are on Reddit talking about this smudge of paint here looks like a Fury. Which I think is ridiculous. So like
it's a real life Fury guy.
Yeah, I'm like
an actual Fury. Like one contender can win it and take it home with them.
Yeah, and by the same token, I went, well, this dragonfly is so big it dwarfs the Fury. So the whole thing is this map is not a scale; it's an artist's impression. So it don't take everything you see literally. Like, but yeah. Again, that is a very big space for a lot of computers, and we do know computers are involved because one of the sponsors down there is a computer builder.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff that can be there. You know, like I've been to, I go to LAN parties here in the UK, public ones, and they have attached expos, and often you'll find there's an exhibitor who builds a stage. And it's like a red carpet, you know, they've got fake security standing outside. They walk you in, and it's a demo of their latest game. So it could be literally anything, you know, but it's obviously something that they're going to keep secret. But I don't think it's Theatres.
Well, I'm still under the impression, as SA is, that, and a few other people who have come on board with this now, is that Theatres of War will be a multiplayer component of Squadron 42. So it could be, again, it could be a bit of Theatres of War and a bit of Squadron. It could just be people playing Star Citizen. It could be that simple. But I'm not going to sit here and go into any length on it because everyone's going to weigh in on that.
That's interesting. If they're going to roll it into a part of Squadron 42 and use Squadron 42 players as a test bed for Star Citizen stuff.
Well, it allows them.
No, I could see that.
It leapfrogs them in, and if you actually go back to the schedule, that's kind of why I talked about it here on this the life in the first person, because I actually kind of think that's maybe where we get an update. We do know Sean Tracy's continue to work on this. Like I don't know if you've noticed that we used to see Sean Tracy every 6 months or so on stuff, and we just have not seen him on anything in the last couple of years.
Locked in a room somewhere. He's not allowed out.
Well, he's just not allowed to talk about what he's working on.
Because he's clearly food through the door, sort of thing.
Well, we did see him a couple of weeks ago in an ISC, but he was on a call with somebody else, and that's the first time I'd seen him, and I went, "Oh, he's not dead," you know. So
I suppose it is hard to have him on if what he's working on is something that you're not going to talk about until
they don't want to put him in a position where he can talk about something that he doesn't want to talk about. So, but again, if Theatres of War does come up, I will not be surprised at all. But we'll see. We'll wait and see. We've long speculated that that's why they will make Theatres of War. So you have that Battlefield-esque experience to kind of suck some Call of Duty players in, and they get into it, and then you can kind of go. Well, look at it. You've got Squadron 42. Why would you not use that to kind of advertise Star Citizen? why you've got a capsulated, or you know, what do you call that, a captive audience? Why wouldn't you not use that captive audience to advertise to them? So yeah. All right, and I went to the wrong one. Right. With that, then, where can people find you on these webs, Mr. Badges?
I'm on YouTube as Drinkers with Gaming Problems, and you know, I will be also streaming the Citizencon stuff too. So
as will I.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll be doing it with Grim. Hopefully, I've got to meet up with Grim this week, and hopefully, if all goes to plan, we'll be doing that. Right. Is there anything you'd like to hear from people in the comments below? I'm sure you. I want to hear about a bit of the speculation there that we kind of talked about. You know, things like the theaters of war. Do you expect to see Squadron 42? Things like that, or and be clear when you're in the comments, like what you expect to see and what you hope to see, because I think that if people can see the hope and the realization, I think it will clear things up for a lot of people. So put what you hope to see and what you expect to see. So kind of like, if I'm being realistic, this is what I expect, and then kind of wait after you've written it. Kind of read it for yourself and go, am I being realistic, or am I like look at yourself and go, am I a cynic, or am I you know, really an optimist?
Take a good hard look at yourself in the mirror and figure out if you're being
What about you? What would you like to hear?
So I'm going to go a different direction with this. What advice would you give, and try and make it positive? If you want to go flame, you know the channels for that. It isn't this one, right? But what advice would you give to someone who's watching Citizencon for the first time? This is their first Citizencon. What would you advise them?
I'm always like, it's a game in development. It's not really a game yet. Like, I'm just like,
don't give them the answer.
It's a glorified tech demo. Like that, I say that to so many people. It's a glorified tech demo, right?
Literally, just after I said we're positive, it's a glorified tech demo.
Yeah, that's my part, but that's the truth. It's just not enough of a game yet. That's why I can't stream this yet. I just get, I've tried. It doesn't work for me. I just get bored.
You see what I got to put up with.
Yeah. All right. With that, then, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. If you like the video, like the video. If you don't like the video, you can do that too. I got no problem with that. And thank you to everyone that has their name in the comments coming on the follow screen. With that, he's been Badges. I've been Execute.
He's been Execute.
Mexecute. I'm the Mexecute.
Yeah.
I'm Mexican.
You're the token Mexecute, mate.
Right. All right. Hasta lasagna. Don't get it on you. Right.
Bye.
Wait, I realized I said lasagna. That's Italian. Shit.
Yeah, it is.